Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. And so I'm going to give you guys my thoughts and opinions about the Moto G Power 2025, since this is an end of year and I was able to get my hands on one. Thanks to Brandon for sending it out to me to review. I appreciate it. I'm not a major tech reviewer. I'm just a guy that really likes mobile tech, and so I appreciate everybody that sees that and supports the channel and whatnot. You guys are awesome. But this is a very, very awesome phone, very unique phone, and not a break the wallet phone, if I could be honest with everybody. And so I think that's one of the biggest things that I really like about this phone, is that it's not going to break your wallet. It goes for about $299 if you're going to buy it outright, but there's like a ton of deals on this phone. You can get it free with some carriers. You can get it for like 30 bucks, 50 bucks. So, you pretty much have the idea right there. And it's a very large phone, at least in my opinion it is. So for somebody that loves what I still call phablets, then you're definitely going to love the size of this display. 6.8 inches is what you get, and it's an IPS panel with 120 hertz refresh. So you'll enjoy that. I mean, it's got modern day refresh rate on what people care about smartphones. I typically don't care about those things, but other people do, so I just got to make mention of that. So yeah, 120 hertz refresh, IPS LCD panel. So wish it was an OLED panel, but I'll take it, right, at 299 bucks, man. Come on. It does have a large battery, 5,000 milliamp hour battery, pretty solid with this device. 30-watt fast charging and 15-watt wireless charging, so it does support wireless charging to the wireless G-pad. And speaking of the back of the phone, this vegan leather feels really nice, and I think one of the big things I like about it is just it's not glass, so I don't have to be nervous about using it without a case. Dropping it on its back, I would only have to worry about any damages to the camera sensors. I wouldn't have to worry about an ugly spider crack on the back of the phone. I mean, most people wrap their phones up in cases, but I'm just saying. So that's a nice touch. I think that's the thing I really like about Motorola. That's a very good thing that you can identify a Motorola device with, besides the Moto dimple that is like iconic on Motorola devices. It did launch with Android 15, and I'll tell you, my variant right here did get the Android 16 update. Now, it didn't get the Material 3 Expressives and all the acoustics off of that, but it is on Android 16. So I don't know if it's going to get any additional software updates in the form of like changing up the user interface or anything like that, or if that's like the only, but it is said that this device is geared up for two major software updates, so we should be seeing Android 17. So my hunch is we will see Material 3 Expressive on this device and see what Motorola kind of envisions Material 3 to be like, which is a big game changer when it comes to Motorola, because previous Motorola devices would get maybe one major software update and then that was it, end of life. Everything was just like security patches until end of life a couple of years after. So really nice to see that this is getting at least two software updates. And then of course it has IP69 or IP68 water and dust resistance, so it's no longer with that Moto nano coating for like wetness protection, but now it has has like a form of water resistance and dust resistance, which is a very good thing. And so I think that's something that was much needed and pretty awesome that it came on the Moto G Power 2025. Another really big thing that I like about this phone is that it's got a headphone jack, something that is sorely missed when it comes to smartphones. Now I know not everybody cares about 3.5 millimeter headphone jacks, and I remember I did a video a while back where I talked about that. Are we even ready to step into that realm of just completely go all wireless? I've had some old friends kind of like respond to that video saying that we are yada yada yada, but I mean, look at today. I mean, my kid literally just like spends his allowance on getting wired headphones because they're obviously they keep getting damaged. And rather than investing in wireless, which I keep telling him, like, I got a bunch of wireless earbuds, you can have one of them and use it, he prefers to use wired. And I noticed that a lot of teenagers still use wired headphones, so good thing Motorola keeps that headphone jack, right? Because I mean, nothing is like more weird than having like a little dongle cable that plugs into the Type-C port with a jack to it, and you connect to that. You'd have to buy one of those third-party ones to be able to have your headphones connected and charge at the same time. So having that headphone jack there, I think it's something that a lot of brands could just bring back. It's of course people will be like, well, the water and dust resistance, but I mean, if they were able to get an IP certification on this device with the headphone jack, it means that other devices can do it as well. you got two cameras on here, right? A 50 megapixel main wide angle shooter, and then you got an 8 megapixel ultra wide. Now you'll see, it's got these little quad rings on the top. One is the flash, and then the other one is actually an ambient light sensor. So it's not a telephoto sensor, it's not, a macro sensor or anything like that. It's just, it is what it is. So it's not an independent sensor alone taking photos. It couples up with the other two sensors, which is a pretty cool thing. And I would say with cameras, they do decent for still photography. If you're just capturing a photo like at a party or something like that, it'd be totally fine. When it comes to like low light image photography, it's not the greatest if you're going to compare it to like the likes of like the Pixel 10 or even the low light capabilities of the OnePlus 9. It doesn't grab that type of photography with low light, but still good enough to see visuals in the dark. And to be able to have that photo say, yeah, I was at this house party, or yeah, I was at this event at night, and you'll be able to get some pretty good photos with it. During the day, the photos are pretty awesome. Of course, the one thing I also don't like about the photography on this with the camera app is the shutter time. So the shutter time is very delayed, which can be rectified. If you guys didn't know, there's a pro mode in the camera mode of this device, so you can actually switch it to pro mode, and you should be able to kind of play around with settings just to get a much better photo if you have the patience to just dial into like the autofocus, white balance, ISOs, and all that. So it does have a pro mode, and one thing that this has that I wish Pixels would have and other devices would have is a dual capture mode and video mode. A lot of vloggers can really utilize this tool, especially when they're going to an event, like if they're going to the Made by Google event or whatever, or they're going to Google I/O. Just imagine just having the selfie cam recording you as you're talking, and then the main camera recording what you're seeing, and you wouldn't have to have like a double camera setup to capture what's in front of you and then yourself. It all does it from the phone. And the first time I've ever seen that was on a Samsung Galaxy S4, and that was something that I sorely wanted on just smartphones in the future. I don't know why Motorola is the only one that pays attention to that detail to bring that type of videography, but you know what? It's very much well recognized. Another downside, it's not really so much of a downside, but some people might look at it like that because people like to have the latest and greatest in tech, and if anything mirrors that, it is acceptable. So the fact that this device does not have an in-display fingerprint sensor is kind of like a letdown to some people. When you have the Moto G Stylus 2024 that introduced an in-display fingerprint sensor for a mid-range device, I'm pretty sure a lot of people expected, with the 2025 model to have it, which I believe the G Stylus 2025 has in-display fingerprint sensor, but the G Power and I think the regular Moto G does not, which is weird that they still continue to use it on a physical button. So my thing is that if you're not intending to put an in-display sensor because you don't want to jack the price up of the phone, at least could have put a biometric sensor on the Moto Dimple back here. We've been asking for that for so many years. Those who have been just like longtime users of Motorola devices, that dimple right there can actually serve as a biometric fingerprint sensor, like the ones that were on Google Pixels in the back, or even on LG phones. And it would be so totally cool because you can see my finger naturally goes there. And so you can just register your index finger from your left and your right hand and be able to unlock the device in either hand that you hold it. So that's something I felt like they should have done instead of doing this power button biometric sensor, because it, again, your fingers accidentally touch it and you can have miscalculated reads because your finger's not registered to it, and then it's just gonna mess with everything. Software wise, for it being on Android 16, it is pretty smooth. Okay, now again, I know realistically this is a budget device, so I'm not comparing the fluidity of transitioning and animations as you're scrolling compared to like my Pixel 10. That would be pretty stupid to do that. So like I compare it to something like my Galaxy A53 or like the Nothing Phone 1, which to me is considered like a high mid-range device. And you know what, it holds its own on that. I mean, it does pretty good. I have no issues, no problems at all whatsoever. Going in between stuff, hadn't had any like major stutters or anything like that. Just basic stuff that I would expect from a budget device is what I have experienced with this the user interface. And so it's not anything I would say is like a deal breaker. It's not game changing, but it's not a deal breaker either. It will suffice for somebody who just wants to be able to use apps, which is what we do with these smartphones. We use apps. And as long as I can load X, I can load Instagram, then I'm totally fine with what it's able to bring to the table. I have no problems at all whatsoever using this user interface and just the operating system on it and whatnot. And the Dimensity 6300 processor, not the best processor out there, again, but you know, for a budget device, $299, it gets the job done. So it's something that I'm like, yeah, it's a go. Am I going to be using this to do like any YouTube videos after my testings? And then people saying like, hey, they noticed like, you know, the jump cuts in certain shorts I did was a little bit janky and everything like that. That was filmed with the Moto G Power. So for, you know, content creating, for, you know, videography, the Moto G Power 2025 is a no-go. For photography, it's decent enough to get pretty good photos if you're just social media posting. If you're an influencer, like on Instagram and stuff like that, then yeah, definitely you don't want to rely on these cameras to capture those moments. The only aspect of the cameras that does really good for content creating is in the form of dual capture mode, because you can get pretty creative with that. And that's why I was saying, like, I want to see something like that come to Pixels, where you can use the selfie cam and the main camera to record video and have a dual capture mode in that. If Pixels did that, that's a game changer, but that's for another video. So battery life on this thing has been really good. I haven't killed it in a single day. And what I mean by that is that I take it off the charger like about 5:30 a.m. in the morning when I wake up, before I wake my kids up, you know, to get ready for school and eat breakfast. And this battery, doing my basic stuff, which is just, you know, watching YouTube videos, maybe, you know, doing a couple of posts on social media and such. And by the end of the day, when I'm going to bed at about midnight, the phone in itself is probably down to about 32 to about 30%, 29%. So I'll make it through an entire day on a single charge. Plugging it into my fast charger, because I have a 30-watt fast charger from my Pixel 10. So this will charge up pretty nice and quick. So I've only charged it up from like 29% up to 100%. And that took like, I would say probably like an hour and 20 minutes, just about. I'm gonna ballpark it there. So yeah, it does pretty good. So just once I plug it in on there, doing what I'm doing, by the time I take it off the charger, it's ready to go. It'll last me the entire day. So battery, you're not gonna have a problem with this phone. This phone is pretty decent with battery. I know some people are just like 2-day battery, and it's like 2-day battery, yes, but at the same time too, people still have the habit of plugging in their phones at night before going to bed. So gotta keep that in mind when it comes to the Moto G Power 2025. The side of the phones in itself and the way it's built, this is plastic, but it doesn't feel like it. It feels pretty decent with this matte color finish on it. So yeah, you know, holding it in your hand, and it's, you know, if you're like someone who judges a phone on like how premium it feels, it's gonna feel slightly premium, even though it's a budget device. Audios on this is phenomenally good. I can hear anything that I'm listening to, whether it's music from YouTube Music, watching YouTube videos. The audio is fine. It's not a little, you know, tight buzz box. It's not a squawk box. It's not very punchy in the bass department. I know some people really kind of like that about smartphone speakers, when they can kind of like really hit with the beat. It doesn't do that, but it's not flat sounding, okay? You know, it's just right in there. It's in that Goldilocks area. It's just right in the middle. Just right to enjoy your content, but not like overbearing where it's like fantastically amazing or a squawk box letdown. As far as, you know, things like call quality, phone calls on here have been really good. When I'm talking to my wife, I can hear her, she can hear me. It's only when it's on speakerphone when it starts to get a little bit buggy. And I thought it was maybe carrier related, because I did have US Mobile Dark Star installed on here, and I did have Metro by T-Mobile installed on here, and either one installed to use services. And it's like, when it's on speakerphone, it's like the microphone cuts off. My wife can't hear me sometimes. So yeah, I don't know, that's like very weird. But if you're not on speakerphone, if you're on a regular phone call, it hears you just fine. So I don't know if maybe it's like a noise cancellation bug that's like, because the speaker, you know, she's hearing herself, so it's canceling out the noise. Could be the reason why. I'm not entirely sure. I've been fidgeting with the settings to kind of see, and it still hasn't alleviated the problem. So I don't know, maybe with like a software update, software patch, maybe that'll fix it. I did report the bug to Motorola, by the way. But overall with this phone, I would say to anyone out there who's pretty interested in the Motorola Moto G Power, you know, you're like, you're finding it on sale and the deal for like $100 less, even if you're buying it at full price, $299. I would say it's definitely a go. This is a phone that can pretty much do more than what I expected of a $299 phone, and that's the reason why I think it's a very good phone, even though it has its subtle setbacks. But every smartphone has subtle setbacks. They have good things about them, and then they have not so good things about them, and that's the reason why we have variety. So, and the last thing I want to share with you guys, and shout out to Brandon for telling me this little tip because I didn't know about it. But when you try to install eSIM, like if you get this phone from T-Mobile and it's network unlocked, if you try to install another carrier's eSIM and you're running into that where it tells you to contact T-Mobile, you can still try to install that eSIM. If you have the QR code from the carrier, just use the regular camera app, hover over the QR code till it pops up the link, and then tap the link, and then let it try to install the eSIM when you're connected to Wi-Fi. Most of you guys probably already knew that, but some people out there don't, and I've seen this on Reddit. People have posted like, they haven't SIM unlocked my phone because I can put any carrier SIM in there, but when I try to use eSIM, it won't let me. It only wants me to use T-Mobile's eSIM. And it's like, you don't need to. Just use the regular camera app to basically do that. Like to scan the QR code, just tap the link when it pops up on your display. When you're hovering over the QR code, tap it and it'll start installing the eSIM to your device. Now, if it tells you that it can't install the eSIM, and you know your device is network unlocked, you go into settings, check, and it tells you, network unlocked, in the about section of the settings. Just contact T-Mobile, let them know that your device is network unlocked. However, you need eSIM. You need them to enable eSIM provisioning. What they tend to do is when they lock these devices to them, they lock down the eSIM to only be activated on T-Mobile. What happens is that they basically disable the ability for the phone to provision any carrier's eSIM, and so it's only locked specifically to T-Mobile. So if you have the phone unlocked, you've met all the requirements, and you still can't get eSIM activated on your Moto G Power 2025, scan it with the QR code, with the regular camera app, and tap the link that pops up on the display, and that should install it. And if it's not taking it, contact T-Mobile. Just let them know, hey, this device is unlocked. They're going to ask for the information to confirm it's unlocked, and just let them know that they need to enable eSIM provisioning. That'll allow the phone to accept another eSIM from another provider. Even though it still doesn't bring up the little QR code scanner when you try to add SIM, just use the camera. That bypass works. So anyways, that's my thoughts about the Moto G Power 2025. If I miss anything, or if you still have questions, ask them in the comment section, and I will be more than happy to answer it there. And again, shout out to Brandon Brucker for sending me out the Moto G Power 2025. It's a phone that I know definitely is going to be in rotation, that I've switched my SIMs in and out from when I decide to want to use it. And so yeah, not winning any awards in the photo or videography department, but that doesn't matter because it still kicks major butt with user interface, fluidity, and battery life, and that's a very big deal.